Okay, this is Ed in San Diego, and welcome Ron Cooper from Eastern Maryland. And this is a picture I took recently of Harbor Drive, it's called. That's downtown San Diego, and of course, the boats and the guy running there. And this is coming in from the airport. Uh, so the town fathers knew what they were doing when they built this. Yes, it's perfect, like a movie set. Uh, Anyway, Ron, thank you so much for the topic. Looking forward to this. And I hope Ken can join us. I know he's scheduled for some other things, but we'll see what happens. And we are recording now. Ron Cooper and I have been doing the meetings like this for about a year now, a little bit more than a year, and we'll continue. And they're getting better and better, Ron. Thank you. I
Well,
mean,
thank you, Ed.
the impact and the comfort of having such meaty topics in a non-scripted environment is not easy to do and keep
it,
it fresh.
no, you're right. It's not easy to do. And in one sense, Ed, you and I can both say, hey, the worst broadcast we'll ever do was the most recent one because we're always getting better.
That's cool. So your topic has struck a chord out there in the world and is, of course, extremely timely. And uh, I did a little research asking Gemini
Good.
about the topic, and they sent me this whole thing. I mean, really, and I'll share that with you because I think uh, I didn't send it to you right now because I didn't want you to think that I'm jumping the gun here or anything. This is your topic, not mine. And so let's get going about the idea of making the workplace a learning, and these are my words, learning environment, an ongoing teaching and learning, coaching environment, and somehow engaging employees in conversation, in trust building activities, and to uh, focus on employee development rather than employee mistakes. Now, I'm just using my own words. Please correct me if I'm wrong. This is Ron Cooper, thecooperculture.com. He is the expert. Ron?
Ed, no, thank you. Everything is you're saying is fine. It's good. It's appropriate. And the topic in general has to do with short term or near term goals, insights versus long term. And in the context of long term, we certainly want to develop our employees. I'm going to use a just a brief example that many of us are very familiar with Enron and the debacle, the situation that occurred there. We may be equally familiar with Wells Fargo, what happened in their situation of creating false accounts. Costco went through a reorganization several years ago. And Ed, what can happen sometimes is interim leaders, senior leaders, can feel almost forced, but they're necessarily, or they feel they need to reach some sort of near-term goals. It could be monetary, it could be recruitment, it could be any number of things, but well, we're not reaching goals, whatever those goals might be. And might we sacrifice longer term goals? And I'm referring now to values, I'm referring to basic principles. What would we be willing to sacrifice any of those near term goals to reach some of the goals that my supervisors, my I just feel I want to have a larger impact. And so what I'm referring to, Ed, is that yes, in the context of employee training, near term versus long term, are we willing to train our employees to uh, reach our longer term strategic company goals? And are those goals real? Are those goals clearly defined? And are our principles defined as well? In other words, Ed, I'm not going to do something that is going to cause knowingly a near-term financial impact at the long-term expense of possibly your employment here. And I would uh, I would have to explore that very carefully if there may be what I predict to be, and it can almost project a near-term impact, but there's a longer term goal. I would discuss that with you to ensure that you make a very informed decision whether to stay with me, and I'll certainly do everything I can to help you decide to stay with me because I am thinking longer term. Ed, I value you, and you are a worthy employee of staying with me. Ed, that's all a part of the longer term thinking. And I want to do everything I can to help leaders ensure they are focused on their long term goals, which, if they are transitioning to the nearer term goals, won't necessarily last. Enron and Wells Fargo are two very glowing examples, but then there's some very positive examples of Costco that we're going to make changes within our company to ultimately benefit our employees. Ed, that's kind of a long answer to the topic, but are we long-term or near-term thinkers? And I'll bring this in for a landing by saying right now, in the context of world events, we're in a very dynamic situation with Iran, Lebanon, Israel, and the activity there. The stock market is today, as we speak, recovering very well, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to continue on that path. But as we are long-term thinkers, we know what the predictable income or the outcomes will be based on whatever decision we make. I want our employees, those within our families and those within our staff, to have the confidence and the trust that I am not making crass or flippant decisions that are near term oriented, but they're longer term. Ed, that's a kind of a long diatribe of what I represent and what I help our other businesses represent.
Trust, trust. That headlines, bright lights on that word, trust.
And
And
it is trust. And am I good for my word? And my daily actions will determine whether you think I'm good for my word. And so if I speak it, but I don't act on it, then over time you will wonder if I'm good for my word. You know, you're uncertain if I can trust you. And I would say that yes, you would be justified in doing that. And so I need to be very aware of what the factors are with trust.
so let's talk about employee feeling. Well, let's talk about the different generations within the workplace. Uh, some article recently I read said there are now six generations in the workplace. I thought five was enough, or even four. And but this relates, and I don't want to get into politics, but President Trump is a master at uh, not disclosing uh, some things, and that's causing a lot of questions about trust right now. And I'm hopeful that he's not allowed to speak frankly and honestly because it's it looks like it's a master poker game going on from my view. And the, and now relating that to the topic on the table here about inside a company and making a company more employee uh, friendly, psychologically safe place for experimentation, not at a risk of throwing money out the window, but to learn more, to develop the talent and um, teach rather than look for mistakes, teach opportunity for discussion, opportunity for learning new skill, and getting remunerated for achieving that new learning related to doing something better for the customer. Long-winded, but that's what I'm trying to say here. And the Cooper culture is all about that, isn't it?
Yes, Ed, I'll say very consequentially that I too, and I think you and I largely agree, but I would be fine if we radically disagree. But President Trump, in some of the national, international decisions he's having to make, that we know that, well, it's the euphemistic expression that misinformation or lies will travel seven times around the earth before the truth ever gets out. And so we have to be very careful about consequential decisions we will make. How much information do I divulge and to whom do I divulge that information? It does involve trust. In Ed, even though I implicitly totally trust you, it may not be prudent to release every bit of information involved in a decision right now because I don't know who overhears us. And, electronically, what information gets out that I don't even know about. And so I need to be very prudent about information that is, let's say, releasable at whatever time because we're in a right now internationally a very dynamic situation, but our family, our company can also be in a very dynamic situation where we need to work through whatever the dynamic is. And I'll let you know as things progress. And it's possible the factors that are causing my decision, as if I am the leader, it's very possible the factors that bring about a decision will change in time and in real time. And it's very possible because we're in such a dynamic situation, those factors will change even before tomorrow. And so I need to weigh those factors very carefully. And in the context of trust, you need to know that I am considering all the applicable factors and I will reach an informed decision. I hope you can agree with me of whatever decision I reach, but I would also hope you have the trust in me that I am considering all of the factors and I necessarily will not divulge on at any given time what the most recent factors are, what the decision is, at least at the moment. Again, Ed, it's a matter of who can we trust with maybe overhearing and those people who want to get me off track with what we're doing. And I think President Trump is considering exactly those factors as we're in a very tenuous situation. I agree with him. We don't want a ceasefire. We want termination. And so a ceasefire is temporary. But Ed, those are just some of the factors involved in trust in the context of our family, employees. Can they totally trust us that they know the way we think and they are confident in us that we will evaluate all the facts and factors and reach a excuse me, very informed decision. My hope is I have that trust in all of my subordinates.
So what we're really talking about here is a great place to work, uh, a best place to work. And being known for that. Uh, they a reward. I'm going to read this. I did some engagement with Gemini, uh, looking for synonyms. Uh, a great place to work can be described as a rewarding environment, supportive atmosphere, positive culture, or an engaging workplace. These terms emphasize a fulfilling, collaborative, and flexible setting, often referred to as a top employer or an employee-centric company. That means the company leadership, the credo, set from the top all the way through middle management, where probably that's where the problems are in many companies. To become a top employer, uh, including minorities and women, to feel safe in a company environment, or they're going to walk. Would you
Yes,
agree? Yeah.
oh, very definitely so. And you mentioned several descriptors. Collaborative culture. Can we work together to a mutual benefit? Fulfillment. Can I engage? Do I feel I'm all in? Do I feel those around me, my superiors, my uh, cohorts, do I feel valued, that they know who I am? I know who they are. You and I have mentioned several times. Are we collaborating? Are we creating? Collaborating and creating in this context are synonymous, or are we competing with each other? And I will tell you, if you feel you're in a competing environment, you will not feel comfortable sharing information with your fellow employee because that may promote them above you. You feel you have to compete. And so I want to help leaders create a culture to where everyone feels, no, I just feel I'm totally engaged here because everyone values me. And I know whatever input I make, the superiors will evaluate my input fairly. And they may not adopt it, but at least I know they will evaluate it because they value my input. And those are all a part of culture that creates enjoyment. Quite honestly, it's enjoyment, but engagement. I feel I'm very much a part of this company because relationships are all important. We are created that we function best when we have a great relationship with other people. It does not mean we're always going to agree with things, but it does mean that we can civilly discuss matters. And I'm engaged in a situation right now with a neighbor that, it is not totally a civil conversation. And I'm going to do what I can to make that a civil conversation. I can't force it, but I'm going to do what I can to do my part. But that's just one very recent example of relationships and a culture of getting along with each other.
Let's talk about the word listening. There's a point where, well, I'm the boss, I know better. I know what needs to be done, rather than listening to you and you, quote unquote. And uh, do you want to get into that?
I certainly do. Active listening is a very important part of leadership. And, we've mentioned it here before, but, did you merely stop talking or, and you're waiting for your time to talk, or did you stop talking because you genuinely want to listen? And so, Ed, you have a perspective, life perspective. I don't. I'm interested in your perspective. I'm interested in your value that you place on different things. Gender is important. That gender, yes, you have a perspective that I will not necessarily have. And so I'm very interested in what your perspective is on various matters. Do I have the genuine ability and desire to learn from you? I certainly do. In the context of generations, five, six, however many generations there are, yes, you and I, we've mentioned here before, were invented long before the internet, social media, and so forth. I can learn from the younger people how to effectively engage with artificial intelligence, which is obviously a major factor in coming about today. So I want to learn from others how I can use artificial intelligence to benefit me, the company, my family, and so forth. I would hope the let's just say the millennial, the Gen Xer, the Zer, will be equally attentive to me. I can't force them to be, but I would hope they would uh, understand that I have a life perspective they don't have, in the fact that I've lived 50, 60 or so years more than they have. Can you respect that and hopefully learn from it, but not think that I'm intellectually incapable of learning today's technology, which I hope I am. It may just take me a little bit longer.
Me too. So, artificial intelligence. Again, I had a conversation with Gemini on this. So, I'm quoting Gemini. To improve this situation, an alternative human-centered approach is needed, shifting from a transactional mindset, meaning employee as a resource, to a relational mindset, meaning employee as an integral part of the ecosystem. Is that BS?
No, not at all. And I, in the context of transactional, I also use the term transformational, transactional versus transformational. For me, those terms are transactional, very near term. Yep, I just talked to you and I have filled that quota, so to speak, as opposed to transformational, as we engage in a relationship, a meaningful relationship, we can, in fact, learn from each other. And so, Ed, that's all a matter of culture. If I am transactional, I am near term oriented. I am near term thinking that would I be willing to compromise my integrity, my economic goals? Would I be willing to cheat someone to reach a near term goal to try to impress someone above me? Or would I be willing to say, I would never compromise a value that would could be short term only or near term at the expense of long term thinking. There are companies that we can cite, and a few I have, that engaged in that kind of activity, that they were near term thinking rather than the long term thinking. And so, Ed, it's very possible that in the near term, I won't reach as quick a financial goal as maybe someone else will. But I do believe that through persistence, perseverance, and the fact that we are focused on longer term goals, I'll never compromise human value goals, that in the long term, I'm going to win. And I do believe that. So that's just some of the philosophical underpinning, the foundational values on which I build myself and my family and businesses.
So the purpose of us doing this interchange right now is to tell the audience, the business audience out there who will watch this program and read about it or tune into the audio. These are business people, and this is a way of you informing the audience about your coaching skills, about you as a person. And this is a public relations vehicle, this program, for the cooperculture.com. So I asked Gemini to talk about the idea of well-being in the workplace. And this is what they say. So I want you to say, oh, that's BS, or go deeper, or
Mhm.
something else. Prioritizing employee well-being and talent is not a soft cost, but a driver of long-term firm performance and profitability. Financial returns headline. Companies with higher well-being scores have demonstrated a direct correlation with greater valuations, higher profits, and superior returns on assets. Another headline, performance and resilience, explanation, according to AI. Employee well-being is positively correlated with aggregate firm level performance, especially customer satisfaction and staff turnover, both of which drive profitability. A healthier workforce is also more resilient and adaptable to a rapidly changing world, including technological shifts like generative AI. That sounds really positive.
Well, it is. And Ed, I was speaking with a person just a little bit earlier today about customer support, customer service, and that has a lot to do with listening. And anyone who's been involved in customer support in any capacity knows that there are times you're going to engage a person who is just absolutely irate about something. And can you bear the time to be with that person, to listen to them, and maybe reduce the stress, the tension, whatever is causing the anxiety that's resulting in yelling? Can you relate to that person such that they know you want to understand whatever it is that is the reason for the call, the complaint? And so, do we have the listening skills? We can do that. Do we value them enough? I will tell you, in the context of customer support and just working with people, if I hand that person off to another person, and it could be two or three generations of people later, that person has a right to wonder, well, I wonder if that person just passed me off, or how much do they really care about me? I'm the kind of person, Ed, if I worked in customer support, I would say I will get the answer for you. And I may have to go through two, three, four generations of people to find the person who knows. But I will tell you, just very recently, I was engaged in a conversation involving homeowners flood insurance. Do I need homeowner flood insurance? And I spoke with probably six different people who said, well, we're not the determining factor, another person is. And I'm in this quote do loop. And no one seemed to really know. And I still haven't reached the final person yet who knows. But it would seem to me the person, the flood insurance company should be the one to say, I tell you what, I will take the action on this, and I'll make a determination if you really do need it. You're not the one who has to call different places. And so that's just one aspect, Ed, of customer support. And are you, as an employee, trained to know how another person may feel, or let's say it this way, customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction? Can I return to this person? And I will tell you, my opinion is, even if I'm a little more expensive than someone else, if I tell them, if I project that I care about you, Ed, there's a possibility you'll return, even though maybe I'm a little more expensive than someone else. And I'm not trying to say I'm going to drive my cost up because of that, but I will say that people pay for value. They think less so about price, but they are focused on value. And in the context of leadership, what value am I as a leader within the company, the family, wherever I am?
Thank you. Uh, the issue of cultivating trust and psychological safety, these are fancy words, but it all goes to where employees feel safe to engage, not just obey.
Yes, and do they feel safe to engage? Engage that okay. In the context of well, we need to change because of whatever it is, and quite honestly, right now we're in the international environment to where yes, gas prices are up, and there may be any other types of insecurities people might have. And so, if people are living in a point of anxiety because of, let's say, some international tensions, am I aware enough of that to such that I care about other employees psychologically safe? Do my folks, do those within my circle of influence know that I care enough about them that I do understand that, yes, we're in some turbulent times right now, but I care enough about you that I care about your family welfare. And it may be that some families are having some financial challenges. So can I reach out to them? Yes, I want to take care of, do what I can to help them in the near term, but then they may be financially out of balance. And Ed, what I'm talking about now is maybe some family finances, and I never want to pry into individual families, but in the context of psychological safety, do do those within our circle of influence feel comfortable discussing possibly some family matters, personal matters with me? Maybe I have a perspective they haven't thought of. Maybe I could say to just ask them to help them determine, are you living financially out of balance? But these are the kind of things that I want to help create as a culture of care within my family and my companies. And so, do we project that trust and care through a psychologically safe culture to where people feel comfortable discussing these matters with us in the context of listening? Are we astute enough in listening to those that we can discern whatever might be whatever's causing the anxiety? And I would never want to be accusatory of them, but I would want to help them try to articulate. Well, now that you've mentioned that, maybe that's where our problem is. But that's the kind of thing, Ed, that as we engage with employees, the employees will feel comfortable engaging with you and me.
Thank you for that. This says model, be a model of vulnerability and transparency. Senior managers must demonstrate humility and empathy, be willing to admit mistakes, and underlined, explain the why behind every decision instead of hiding behind hierarchy.
Well, yes, very, very important. What you're just saying there, Ed, is be what I call appropriately vulnerable. And yes, I've made mistakes in life. I think every one of us listening, watching, have made mistakes. And I am not, and I do not never encourage people to dwell on those mistakes. But a quick synopsis, yep, I went through whatever I went through because if I could relive life again, I would have done something different. And so, yep, I've been there, done that wherever you are, and I'm not here to blame, but here's how I adjusted. And so I have experienced, okay, for me personally, I have experienced 15 months of unemployment, and on record, the numbers would seem were that it's going to be very difficult for us to maintain the house and so forth. The quick version of that is everything worked out fine and we're doing just fine. Now, the job I had lined up did not turn out, and but I was 15 months unemployed. Now, if I were to relive that part of my life, I know differently what I would do to better market myself. But those are some life experiences that we learn from it. And one of the cultures, one of the traits that I want to help everyone with is every failing of whatever you want to call it, we came short of whatever the goal can be a learning experience if we choose to learn from that through that. I never want to be in a position where I blame somebody, but let's learn from that and not repeat whatever the situation was again. So, but I'm a believer, Ed, that everything we experience can be learning.
Listening, that word surfaces again, doesn't it?
Well,
Listening.
there are two L words here: listening and learning.
Yeah.
And everything we do can be a learning opportunity. But what's our mindset? Am I do I feel a victim of what maybe I caused, or can I say, well, I'll learn from this. I won't be doing this again. And quite possibly, and almost certainly, I'm going to experience some sort of shortcoming again, but again, I'll learn from it and I'll pass that my learning on to other people.
So there's a research paper that is the foundation of this thing here that I'm reading.
Mhm.
60 to 70% of employees, according to that survey, feel unheard by senior leadership, underscoring the need to act on listening. Have a listening session or something.
Well, in the expression, Ed, it is an expression, but it's a truth. People, your staff, will not hear you until they first feel heard. And so, do your staff members feel you genuinely care enough about them to listen to them? Now, I'm going to try to help people over a whining period, WHINING. And okay, let's don't focus on whatever went wrong, put a focus on that. But again, what can we learn from that? And so, um, do I have the type of environment to where people would choose to engage? And can we quickly learn from by listening? But again, it's a matter of can I set the mindset? Can I establish a culture to where people can learn from what they're going through?
So within a group environment, uh, just if you want me to stop doing this, just say so. Okay, I'm
Oh
listening.
no, no, we're fine.
Oh, okay, good. Um, Incivility in the workplace, disrespect are the most common forms of misconduct, according to this. When minor behaviors go unaddressed, they normalize disrespect and create space for more serious violations. Early intervention is crucial to stop this progression. So, in other words, you're the boss, the owner, the hierarchy, of course, the investor. Your name, your business fortune is on the dotted line. And here you have these employees who are not behaving appropriately, whatever that may mean, in the workplace, in your workplace. And everybody's watching what you as the boss are going to do about that gal or guy who is weird, quote unquote. And I don't want to be around that. I'm going to go hide, shut the door, and try to do my work. But that's exactly the wrong environment to have. But it certainly exists, doesn't it?
Well, it does exist, Ed, and I know how uncomfortable it is for some people to confront other people. But here is a premise that is absolutely true that if I as the person in charge, whatever my title is, whatever my position is, if I know something is happening and I choose not to confront it, then I've just accepted it. And so I need to be comfortable in myself that I can engage, confront, and by confront, sometimes that people connote that, well, that's argumentative, combative. No, it's just that you and I want to discuss that. That let's just say that someone said something that's off color. It just was disrespectful, and I heard it. I will engage that person. I just said, can you tell me what you meant by that and why you said it? And I want that person to know that one of the values of our family, our business, our company is we will never consciously denigrate another person. And what I heard was it seemed you were intentionally denigrating, or at least demeaning in some form, that person. Did I hear that correctly, or tell me what? And Ed, I want to engage that person in that. Now, I'm not talking in a hierarchical way, but I'm curious, what was it that caused that? Now, I want to try to correct your behavior around another person because as you said, that when we say or do something around another person, yes, another employee could feel that I just don't want to be at the water fountain, the coffee bar, wherever it is with another person because I don't even want to risk the possibility that person will do again or do something similar to what they did. So I'll just avoid that person. So and what that ends up happening in that situation, Ed, is that we have divisions within the company. But I allow it to happen if I don't confront people. So I need to feel comfortable in myself, confident that I can confront and just say that that we don't. That violates a part of our culture here. We respect each other. I would hope the person with whom I'm confronting about that can agree and they would choose to modify their behavior. If they would choose not to and they say, no, I have every right to do that, then I may have to make a decision whether that person stays with it because one of the values of our company is that we respect each other and we will never intentionally denigrate another person. And so you either comply with that or may have to say that, well, if that's a value that you feel you just cannot ascribe to, um, how about if I work with you to find you a better place for you to work? And so, Ed, that's a part of who I am and what I'm about.
That I wish I had bosses like you when I was working for other companies, rather than working for myself. So this is again, I'm reading from this AI thing. Uh, Equal consequences. That's, I think, just what you're talking about. Apply the same consequences for misconduct to everyone. Tying internal advancement to conduct is critical, as seeing people promoted despite their mistreating others, because that destroys trust.
Well, and I'm going to maybe offer a little bit different language than that. Is it equal consequences? Because fairness, and I'm going to address that term in the context of being a parent. That, well, dad, mom, the way you treated the consequence of someone was not the same as what you did with me. Well, it's the end result, the change in behavior is what we're looking for. The means to that end may be a little bit different. That I'm going to treat you, Ron Cooper, a little bit different than Ed, you, because we're two different people, two different personalities, and the end result is what we're after. But the means to the end, the consequence of what you did, the treatment may be just a little bit different for each. Because, in that context, Ed, the what I'm after is the end result, the change in behavior. That can you ascribe to that? And so it's very possible in this context that okay, yep, I'm sorry that I responded the way I did because I'm under a lot of stress of whatever. And so the end result may be like, okay, how about if you just take a half day off and I'll work with you to work through whatever stress point you have. But the other person might say, no, I've got every right to say what I did to and about that person, and I made a very conscious decision to do it. And so for me, Ed, two different means to achieve an end, two different people responding in different ways. That's how I would apply the possibility of well, that's how I apply fairness because the consequences were administered just a little bit different, tailored to each person.
And that's in plain sight. Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody sees. So, and this leads perfectly timed because my next thing here is, according to them, a dominant 56% of employees don't report misconduct because they believe it wouldn't make a difference. And 36% fear retaliation for reporting. Organizations must provide protection from retaliation and offer radical transparency by opening, this is their words, the black box to show visible evidence that reporting leads to action.
Yes, and several R words come to mind, Ed, that you and I have talked about it before. Marty and I discuss with businesses, families, people, three R's. And that first R is I resent what you said. Now, if I, as a leader, hear somebody say something that, that's just it didn't sound right. I need to confront that person because if I said something, if I allowed someone to say something without me saying something to them, that person could legitimately say, I'm going to resent you. I mean, I do resent you because of something you said. If it's not handled right then, they could go to the next level that I'm going to resist you, Ed, because I don't want to be in an environment where I'm going to give you an opportunity to maybe say or do the same thing. So again, it could escalate to the third R, I'm going to seek retribution. And no, sir, I will avoid you at all costs if I think you are looking for an opportunity to exercise retribution against me. But again, as leaders, we've got to be aware of what some of those silent inhibitors are, that we need to address those things at the time. But we're not looking for what happens, but we are aware of. In the context again of psychological safety, we want people to feel free to discuss those things. And should a person feel offended by something, I hope I have created a psychologically safe environment to where they would feel comfortable talking with me, and they feel that I can at least express myself and I'm not going to uh, be condescending to them, something to the effect, well, what is wrong with you that you can't just work your way through that? And but depending on personalities and perspectives, that may be a matter of well, I had that growing up, and I'm very aware of being treated that way, and that kind of person might exist in your employment right now.
Old headline here, integrate well-being into talent development. Talent, especially Gen Z, is motivated by continuous growth, purpose, and impact. And Gen Z expects investment in their development.
Yes, and Ed, when a person feels we can grow together, in other words, I'm going to go back to the part of the culture that we discussed earlier. That are we creating together or are we competing? That has a lot to do with culture. That we will share information with each other if I know I'm being treated very fairly in this company. And so the fact that I shared information with you hopefully would just capitalize on your strengths, your perspective. Hopefully, you would be willing to share information with me. And we can, through innovative thinking, overcome a lot of obstacles that and it could literally be just the two of us. Man, I tell you what, Ed, I feel energized that I want to take this project on. You and I together, help me think into and think through this. That I can only get so far. Can you help me with some other ideas? Yeah, that's a matter of you and me working together, innovative thinking. When we have created a culture like that, we both feel fulfilled. Well, golly, yes, we can. We're creating together. We're not competing. And if we come up with some innovative ideas of, well, that didn't work, but it may take the 17th, 21st idea before it say, man, we made it together, Ed, we made it. But that is a cooperative type environment, the culture in which, no, we are definitely willing to work together because I feel engaged. I want to overcome whatever any obstacles are, but I want to feel fulfilled that, yes, Ed, you and I together made it. But that's all a part of a culture that we create.
Flexibility regarding hours and location of work. Young people particularly see that as a matter of autonomy and trust. Workplace work arrangements, even 4-day work week, can boost satisfaction. Organizations should normalize conversations about stress and prioritize mental health. It sounds
Well,
like, I mean, is this real? It
oh,
sounds like it's a goody two shoes place to be.
well, no, it's a very realistic, Ed, that we of course have some of your employees might be caretakers for your family, and they're saying, "Gosh, my grandfather coined the term once an adult, twice a child," and so the older we get, the greater the likelihood we will need support, and so it is very possible you have employees who say, gosh, if I could, and then adjust the schedule to be the caretaker at home, that's one thing. And in the younger sense, I have children who are in school or whatever it may be. Then can I, as an employee, as a supervisor, work with my employees to help adjust around their schedule, and but yet still meet the customer needs? And so our customer obviously paying us to do whatever we would do. Can I work with our employees to try to meet their needs? And working remotely might be one way to do that. Having a 4-day work week might be another way to do that. But the attitude of, well, you know what? I want to be paid for 40 hours, but I don't want to work more than 20 hours. Well, I have a problem with that.
Thank you for speaking up. So it says this fancy words. I don't know who wrote this thing, but embrace co-creation, giving employees the ability to shape their workday and own the tasks.
Well, and I think there, Ed, it would be all right. Yes, we will certainly do what we can to meet your needs at home. Tell me what would work well with you. If I'll tell you, not in a dictatorial or in a condescending way. Well, this is the output we need. And so can we adjust your schedule to where we meet both needs, the company needs and the clients that we are supporting? But then can we meet your needs at home by adjusting your schedule? And so rather than me dictate what will happen, you tell me what would work well for you, and we'll see if we can reach a happy medium there. And we may need to adjust a little bit, but that to me is what compromise is about. And compromise to me in this context does not mean I'm giving up. It just means that, all right, it can't always be my way. It can't always be my as a supervisor that I'm going to dictate what you do, and it can't be the employees, and it's got to be my way always. That the two proposed solutions might be incompatible, and we agree that no, they're incompatible. And so, are you willing to stay with me, or do you have the value that the company needs, and can we work together? And together is a very operative term for me.
I'm sorry Ken Lloyd isn't with us because this is right up his alley, all this stuff uh, from his PhD.
Yes.
So we're coming to a close here. I just This is just perfect timing. I didn't set it up this way. It's just happening. Targeting growth and recognition. Implement one-on-one mentorships as much as possible and coaching, mentorships and coaching to provide the individualized attention, for instance, that Gen Z values, supposedly, and use cross-training and skill-building opportunities as an expected option, not a perk. Make recognition real-time and specific, celebrating values-led behavior in the workplace, not just output.
Yes, and Ed, what you're describing, somewhat of an overarching term, is relationships. And yes, I as a supervisor do want to recognize you for the work you're doing, but I want to be very specific about it. And Ken Lloyd is an expert at this, but it does have to do with routine, or let's say continuous assessment. And I don't mean that this is to me, assessment and evaluation can be different. Evaluation is I'm going down a checklist and, how good are you? Are you did A, B, C, D, and so forth. But really, an assessment is, Ed, you're just a master at, and I really appreciate the way you work with other people. I really appreciate the way you prepare for meetings, and that is a real credit. That's a great example for other people to follow. But Ed, I've noticed that, and this is purely hypothetical. Ed, you seem to be habitually late to meetings. You arrive 10 minutes after the start of a meeting. And I am the kind of person that, at the designated time, that's when I want to start the meeting. And I'm not one to, well, let's just wait 2 or 3 minutes because people will straggle in. But, and I use that as one example. And quite honestly, that's part of my military background. But can I help instill the discipline to plan your day to be there on time? And I am the kind of person, uh, with the acknowledgement that today's meeting I messed up, but I am the kind of person that being at the appointed place 30 minutes early is better than arriving 17 seconds late. Now, there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, you're out to lunch, Ron Cooper," making a statement like that. But Ed, what I'm saying is, I respect your time, and as we engender that type of value and culture in people, we know they respect me, we respect each other, and that involves trust, and it leads to confidence in an organization. It's a lot about the culture. And can I totally engage? And that's all, it goes back to the very beginning of our discussion. Can I feel totally fulfilled and engaged here? Or do I just feel that, no, I'm here to get a paycheck, nothing more than that? I will arrive within 30 seconds of the start time, but as soon as the clock ticks or approaches, man, I'm looking at the clock because I want to get out of here. And so, if that's the attitude, that there's something wrong with the environment, and people who have that kind of a mindset are not fully engaged. They're just here to get a paycheck. Hey, I'm in and out. I'm engaged only enough to get my paycheck, and I'm done.
Ron Cooper, the cooperculture.com. This has been a wonderful discussion, and thank you for coming into the global meeting room. I strive to make this psychologically safe space for introductions and discussions. This has been terrific for
Not
understanding the cooperculture.com.
And Ed, I appreciate that. And what we do through these conversations is stimulate or elevate people's thinking. And if we can help people think into their culture at work, at home, think into relationships. Do we have a good relationship? Can we assess what's going on? And maybe you'd say, well, we can do whatever better. There's many components to this, but we are available. We work with companies, we work with families, we work with teams of people. We work one-on-one coaching to help people through whatever it is their challenge might be, to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. And the want to be has a lot to do with satisfaction. And yes, the profits will follow after that. But when I am fulfilled, when I feel I am totally satisfied with where I am in life, everything else is going to follow. That again, the profits will be there, but I just feel totally relationally satisfied that everything in life is going well. I'm not trying to paint a rose-colored picture that's unrealistic. I'm just telling you how things are when you feel you can be totally engaged.
It's thecooperculture.com. This is the real man, the real thing.
And
Thank you, sir.
you can reach me at Ron at thecooperculture.com. Thank you, Ed.
You've had wonderful show. Thank you all for watching. Your feedback is wanted. Reach me, please. Email editor, global business news at gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.